Hello, this is Soul with another video. Please like the video, subscribe if you enjoy yourself, that sort of thing. And today, I am finally going to share my journey to Keystone Master in Season 2 of Shadowlands. Although, actually no, this is going to be a lot more ranty than anything. If I could separate this into sections, I will, but if not, you're going to see in the navigation below, and I'm sorry. I want to be very clear in saying that this is my story, my journey, and this is not like a review. I'm not trying to sell you the experience. I'm not gonna try to discourage you from doing Mythic Plus or play WoW or whatever. I'm not gonna say like the nicest or the meanest things. You just might not like everything or anything that I say, but at least I want you walking away knowing that these were, for the most part, genuine feelings and reactions that I had along the way. I'm opening myself up, all right? So please bear with me. I should probably share first what I call my player profile for those of you out there who don't know my playstyle very well. So I play as a paladin tank, and that's about it. I'm not very big on alts, so sorry. I run a small guild. We're pretty casual in that a lot of us just raid log as long as we can get away with it. I or me, we mostly raid twice a week, like 3 hours a day, and we only go as far as heroic. So that's kind of my skill or gear cap. I'm also sort of a weirdo when it comes to my usage of add-ons that help me with combat assistance. Like I use notifications like bigwigs or deadly boss mods or whatever for the alerts and the timers especially. Like that way I can tell my team, hey, something's coming in a few seconds. But I also enjoy running content, especially raids, semi-blind, without testing, without previews. And when the encounters are live, we learn these encounters through trial and error. We only read the dungeon journal as like a last resort. I always tell people, okay, just /ready check. We run in, look at the tooltips, look at the logs, find out what kills you, that sort of thing. I don't rely on major add-ons like weak auras to otherwise trivialize an encounter mechanic. It's that sort of thing. Also, I'm very, very introverted in spite of being a content creator. Like I have a very, very difficult time with meeting new people. I tend to overthink. I get paranoid of what people think of me on a personal level. So like doing a random heroic dungeon queue, that doesn't bother me very much considering how easy that is. And I could just kind of blow through all that stuff. But being a pug in like a raid or a dungeon group, just the thought of it raises my anxiety. So I'm really skittish about bringing in pugs. But when it comes to being the pug, that's like once in a blue moon. I definitely need to be in a certain mood for that or be really inebriated or something. So thanks for letting me share that. Anyway, Keystone Master. This is my first time getting Keystone Master like ever. Although I don't think it's been a thing for that long anyway. I mean, Legion was, 2016 or so? Those of you who've been watching me since back then, since I started making videos, know that I have not been a big fan of Mythic Plus. You might have gotten that vibe after I talked about my player profile too. Over the years, I kept kind of dipping my toes in, but I'm also sort of old school, maybe a boomer, whatever you want to call it, because I still come from that mindset when dungeons were a thing. They were a thing that you will eventually move on from, or you graduate from them because you got all the things that you need and it's time to move on to the place or the thing that has the better gear. So in other words, I guess I'm still accustomed to dungeons not really being endgame, sort of. In the days before Mythic Plus or Keystone Dungeons, or Mythic Plus just rolls off the tongue better, dungeons used to be the thing to get you gear. And then that was it, sort of. Because even after moving on to raids, it was the thing to get currency stuff, like justice or valor points, to get the other better gear that you want. And once that thing that I wanted was gotted, that was it, unless I wanted to switch to an alt or something. And the dungeons themselves, they just got easier. with gear, with experience, with other people who got better gear and experience. The daily heroic, that used to be it, if you remember those days. Back then, the loop still kind of felt worth it even after the dungeon felt super trivial to the point where you were running it on mental autopilot. And it was still a thing after I got all the gear because there was always like a little bit of a something to drag me back in, notably those PvE currencies that I mentioned. It's no small wonder why the WoW team just didn't leave something like that in place for those kinds of players who just want to mindlessly destroy a dungeon. Like there's a thing to get that will put you on a path towards decent gear or, you know, some sort of meaningful reward. If Valor vendors were a thing, and it's not right now, and the daily heroic gave Valor, which I believe it doesn't right now either, I would probably be doing the daily heroic every day like I used to. It's like, what, 15 or 20 minutes of work towards a decent piece of gear or a vendor thing? And that seems simple. Like, why? But this is where we're at. Now, I love Mythic Plus for the game, like, you know, for the greater audience, because Mythic Plus just made the game bigger. Things like the Mythic Dungeon Invitational and the Great Push, you know, those are extra. The fact that Mythic Plus created this accessible, high-level endgame, that's undeniable. Because coordinating 10 to 30 people to show up all at the same time for 3 or so hours in a night, that's not easy. Coordinating 5 people to show up at the same time for an hour, sure, that might still be a challenge, but it is easier. Throwing a pug together whenever you want, that's also easier, but it doesn't, you know, it's not without its downsides. There's also a lot that I don't like about Mythic Plus. I don't like the pressure of having to beat a timer or else. That's the big thing, or else. Because separately, I'm fine with beating the time to get some extra reward separately. I'm fine with being punished for not completing a run. I mean, I didn't kill everything, so why should I get everything, right? But I don't like having both of these things mushed together. Like, it's pressure from the moment that you slot that keystone to when the last boss goes down. Now, in non-Mythic Plus content, you can fail at a boss, whoops, and then try again. You can wipe. I've caused wipes because I wanted to try a stupid experiment, and then I laugh it off and try again. But with a key, there's that pressure that you just can't make up for. I try to tell people that I've run with that, hey, we're definitely going to deplete this key. We're just doing it for like the vault, and it shouldn't be a big deal. And for the most part, everyone's okay. But I still see that damn timer. I can make it go away, sure, but I know it's still there. Back in Battle for Azeroth, Island Expedition's biggest complaint, I would argue at least, was that indirectly there was still a timer. You still had to go, 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 or else. So this will sound like an obvious confession, but anyway, I have a certain level of anxiety when playing MMOs. In a group setting, I don't like being the reason that everyone hits the floor, and I think we all experience this at a certain level. My anxiety, though, it definitely alters my player behavior. One way that I try to deal with that, apart from avoiding these situations, is to be very, very good at what I do as a tank. So don't die, hold aggro, don't die, you know, control the flow of combat, reposition, don't die, and so on and so forth. In some ways, it actually conflicts with the player profile that I described just a little bit ago, I think. Like, I want to do well, but I don't want to read a guide that tells me the optimal rotation or like the perfect gear setup. I want some notifications through add-ons, but not so much so that add-ons will do all the thinking for me when I never gave myself a chance to figure it out for myself. Like, there's a careful balance between like my personal pride as a gamer who wants to overcome adversity and not wanting to make mistakes. In a way, it's how some games have some really customizable difficulty settings to tailor the challenge to whatever your preference is. You know, like I do heroic raids, but I use fewer of those alerts. But, well, that would be more useful in Mythic raids, although stuff hits harder there, so it feels like you need it. But regardless of what I use and don't use, I mess up sometimes. I can miss a taunt or a cooldown button. I can make a bad call out, try a tactic that definitely doesn't work out. And that's fine in an untimed setting, like a raid or a non-Keystone dungeon. I mean, sure, I used up some time. Like, we have a 3-hour limit. This is as much time as we have, and I need to make the most of that. But it's just not nearly as punishing as a Mythic Plus, where one too many packs pulled might spell a deleted key. When you and your team are playing at a level where you feel challenged, and it doesn't matter if, depending on the team again, it doesn't matter if it's a +5 or a 10 or a 20, depending on your skill, your gear, and your raid comp or group comp and your tactics, one mistake could make the difference between timing and not timing that key. Even if you get a consolation prize, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of guilt if the reason that I didn't time was because of me, and now these people's expectations were not met. But I don't want Mythic Plus to change for me, not for my player type. I don't want it to be different. Like, people who have far more experience than I do, they can speak from that platform on how the existing features can improve. But it would be great if somehow, some way, Mythic Plus could expand or add more options so that people in my player type could feel more welcome without whatever changes or additions don't step on the existing playstyles or the existing game modes. But now I'm just getting the feedback, and I think I've gone way off course, so let's get back to the journey. I kept telling myself to not give up on Keystones because it provided a unique challenge with, of course, some good gear to boot. But I've always struggled with being part of a pickup group. I'm one of those kind of highly sensitive people, at least to a certain extent, so maybe midly sensitive people, which is a dangerous thing to be on the internet. Because when I see someone react strongly to a mistake, even if it's not me, it still makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, I'll empathize, I'll feel what that person might be feeling. If someone were to ninja leave, I'm gonna first wonder, oh, shoot, is that my fault? And that feeling comes even when I run raids with my guild, people who I've known for like years. In a pickup group, in a pug, I don't feel numb to like this stranger who I invited into the group. It doesn't feel any different from meeting a stranger face to face for the first time. Like, I don't know that person. I don't know how they're going to act. I've never met that person, but I feel like they're constantly judging me, which likely isn't true, but I feel that anyway. So I'll get paranoid, very paranoid, that they'll react strongly to a mistake, which makes me uncomfortable, to the point where it makes me want to avoid that feeling by not pugging unless I feel really, really safe or super inebriated or something. So obviously I have huge problems with pugging. It's me. So it wasn't very far into Legion when I stopped trying to do Mythic Plus, at least with pugs. And during Battle for Azeroth, I openly loathed Mythic Plus to the point where it just turned me off from doing dungeons altogether during that expansion. I feel like I missed out. I can't get that back. But in Shadowlands, I wanted to give it another chance. Not for me, or not just for me, because, not just for me, but for my guild too. So I can help them gear, so they can improve. So we, as a guild, can have an activity to entertain ourselves with. And a bunch of guildmates, they were interested. There were a lot of active guildmates on, at least at the time, during Season 1, and maybe this could be fun. So jumping ahead a little bit, things didn't quite work out. And the biggest reason was me, to be perfectly honest. I didn't try hard enough to set a schedule that worked for me. So whatever I did during Season 1 was very infrequent. It wasn't on a consistent schedule. It was just messy. So I started losing interest. And so the guild started losing interest, and it just kind of floundered from there. It wasn't just me though, right? Like, what sort of demotivated me in Season 1 was the prideful affix. Now, I'm way oversimplifying, but from an execution standpoint, doing a successful key, or successful keys, are about your routes, and proper use of cooldowns. The way I see it, an efficient route means you kill the minimum amount of trash in a way that your cooldowns can be used to take down the really nasty ones, and you'll still have something available for bosses, depending on if it's fortified or a tyrannical thing. So there's strategy. There's a lot of strategy in doing good keys, and I can at least appreciate what goes into it when you want to run 15s and higher. I only ran I think a 16 at the best, by the way. Prideful was it was like needing to know the route within the routes. You had to kill the right enemies in the right order to set off a prideful ad buff in the right time, in the right place, to make that prideful buff be the most useful. So as soon as any mistake is made, the rhythm gets all jacked up and it gets that much harder to recover, and it just felt really frustrating. So confession, another obvious confession, I was not good at the whole planning of routes thing in season 1, most definitely. Remember, I like doing things blind. So in spite of useful add-ons like the dungeon tool thing, and very helpful creators like Dratnos who genuinely want to help people be more successful at keys, I don't use them. I don't watch them. There's this unmovable principle in my head, idiot. Learn through wiping. You can always pick yourself up and try again, I tell myself. Only that just doesn't work very well in Mythic Plus. Practicing means probably depleting keys, and not everyone is interested in depleting keys when they could just tell me, hey dude, just download the freaking add-on, learn the routes, or make one your damn self. So some of you must freaking hate me right now because I'm bitching over things that I can do something about. But here's me with the selective difficulty, the handicap by choice, whatever you want to call it. I'm just trying to point out that the road to Keystone Master, when going down that road, going down this journey, I was not the shot caller, which feels really humbling because in raids, I'm the raid lead. I make up the tactics and I figure things out. And for me, that's a super satisfying part of the game. That's one of the best parts in the game, figuring it out. But here I am in season 2, where people who have been running keys regularly, they all know what to do already. You can't really undo that knowledge unless I selectively rejected all these people, guildmates and friends and whoever, and I only wanted to play with people who had the same experience as my own. I had to make a choice, and I chose to run with people who have this knowledge because, well, the schedule worked, and my self-importance was secondary to being able to play with my fellow mates. So for a while, I really, really struggled with not having that role in Mythic Plus to the point where it felt like imposter syndrome. As I was gaining score, sorry, I'm super choking. As I was gaining score, I asked myself if I was really earning this because I was counting on and relying on and listening to the tactics of someone else. And they were tracking percentages with add-ons. It was pretty obvious. It took some actual encouraging and reassurance from people on the team that I was doing well at what I did with tanking, staying alive, listening, watching for the next pull to get marked, or picking up the pack that someone had lured in for me. So I had to remind myself that we're a team and everyone is doing their individual part. Throughout season 2, and up until I was only a few dungeons away from KSM, so as I started this, I only ran one dungeon a week at the only time that was most convenient for everyone, and that was right after our Tuesday raid night. So we have a sort of static team between 3 regulars and a couple of others who rotate in and out, 2 others who are made up of guildmates and very, very occasionally a pug. There's a friendly guild on another server that we team up with. The schedules just work out perfectly where their off night is our raid night and vice versa. So, they come join us. Sometimes we join them and that's sort of the thing. So after our guild's raid night, I squeeze myself in for 1:15 and that's it. And I was just doing this mostly for the 252, to which I didn't even get a whole lot of usable ones. Typical luck, right? The folks from the other guild, they're the ones that had the experience. So to that end, they carried me. But I'm still the tank, and my performance could easily decide the fate of each run. Being the not shot caller and having a lack of experience meant that I had to be very, very communicative, very talkative to the team. I had to be honest with what I wasn't sure about and speak out if I was less than 100% sure, even if that meant, double checking, triple checking over and over again. Like, I'm not going to assume and botch a pull and ruin a key just because I got overconfident or lazy. I don't think there's any shame asking what pull is next and where I should reposition if we're near a patrol, but that's part of the job when you don't have the experience. When you don't know, you ask. Wow, teammates. They're like the original WoW add-on. So for me, the secret to enjoying Mythic Plus or being successful in Mythic Plus or raiding in WoW in general has been relationship building, which is admittedly hard for me to do, but the return on that equates to having a group that and know you. Trust and familiarity, I think, they help to overcome the anxiety of not knowing who you're grouped with. It's like it's the combination of luck at finding the right people and the work towards keeping these people, because they can come to rely on you too. The gear, the rewards and all that stuff, it's just going to come eventually as we're all chumming around and enjoying ourselves or dying. That's happened a bunch of times too. And I have gotten offers from folks to carry me through runs and otherwise to come along and help with Keystone Master. Okay, it was like 5 people that have, come forward to offer, but I very much appreciate it. I mean, sure, it's one of the perks of being a content creator, but even then, that anxiety would kick in before I could ever reach out or say yes to these offers. And I just wanted to point this out because I don't want anyone to take it personally that I didn't want to play video games with them. It's not because I didn't want to. I just have a thing about feeling safe, and it's not you, it's me. But anyway, having a semi-static group, it definitely comes with its pitfalls. Like, one of the guys had their work schedule changed, so they weren't able to play video games with us after the raid, and that pretty much killed my motivation to keep going for a while. By this time, my score was like in the 17 or 1800s or so. So for like a month or two, 0 dungeons. It took some coaxing and some poking from a few people who, want to see me get KSM before I relented. And then I set up a few nights on a Wednesday to slam 3 or 4 keys at once so I can wrap up the achievement. And we only did that twice. I only needed it twice, but they were very exhausting too. This wouldn't have been possible in Season 1. The Season 2 Tormented affix was very enjoyable, mostly because it wasn't the freaking prideful affix. As a tank, it wasn't super exciting. I got the powers that gave me DPS wherever I could. Otherwise, I got the shields and the damage reduction. Those were very, very helpful. Problem was, though, it didn't feel cool. But I guess it didn't need to feel cool either. It just didn't need to be prideful. And this Tormented affix didn't do that. It felt good getting Keystone Master, and it felt really good that the last key I needed was a Sanguine Depths, because in Season 1 I struggled with it a lot, and now it's one of my more favorite ones. And I'm starting to run out of stuff to talk about. I should start wrapping up with some takeaways. This kind of turned out to be one part, hey guys, here's some platitudes to think about to get Keystone Master. And it was another part, like true Hollywood stories. Surprise, I have gamer anxiety. I'm fortunate though. I'm very fortunate to have found guildmates and comrades and party members who could help me overcome my shortcomings to achieve all these things. I feel very, very strongly that healthy relationships with fellow gamers is a precious thing that can be more valuable than even the most epic gear. And when you're someone who values and appreciates that, then that care, I imagine, is given in return. If you treat everyone like a faceless pug, they're probably going to see you the same way. And maybe some people's circumstances or preferences just roll that way. So I'll kind of walk that back, and I apologize if that comes off as a diss to the way that some people enjoy the game. It took me like 6 months to get KSM, but to me, that was right on time. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe to things. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.